Vinyl community, I'm back to do our recent vinyl finds. Cheers. And I've had a lot of time on my hands now, 2 weeks. So I listened to a lot of records and I did some digging at a sort of a local shop and found some great stuff. Traded in some duplicates and stuff that I got for free, and so I ended up not paying more than like maybe $2 for each record. Got some killer stuff, sure. It's 24 records. I'm gonna start off with jazz, moving on to the Swedish, Psych, prog, and then finishing off with more like US and English music, amongst other things. Playing in the background, Jazz at the Pawn Shop, Swedish classic jazz record. Arne Abnerius, Bengt Hallberg, Georg Riedel, and Egil Johansson, most famous for its fabulous sound quality. And that's actually going for pretty cheap nowadays. So if you were after that a couple of years ago, but it was too expensive, now's the time to buy it, I think. I've seen it go for little. Starting off with this, I got this for free by a friend, Yutaka. Not my thing. Too sappy. Don't throw that away. I've had this for maybe a year and a half or something like that. Siesta by Miles Davis and Marcus Miller, 19... Ah shit, I should do the research on this. Late 80s, let's say that. Late 80s, one of the last records he recorded. Fantastic, awesome, surprised me. So yeah, nice to have in the Miles catalog. Moving on to Pat Metheny Group, Lyle Mays, Mark Egan, and Dan Gottlieb. This is the first one that they released 1978 as the Pat Metheny Group on ECM, and it sounds good, but it moves over to that kind of 80s sound, but it's good. This was not good. This is not my type of record. Herbie Mann and Tamiko Jones, a man and a woman, doing some sort of covers and some originals. Signed by Lee Morgan, but you also have like Sunny by Bobby Hebb, Day Tripper by Beatles, and yeah, it's like sounds like every Herbie Mann record I can ever listen to, but it's except that this is a little bit earlier. So it's like, I don't know. One day I'll give away all my Herbie Mann records, I think. Chris Basket, thank you so much. Listen to this now. Bolivia by Gato Barbiero. You have John Abercrombie and Stanley Clark on this, and Aito Moreira on drums and percussion. Really, really good. Thank you so much. Really enjoyed this. One that I didn't enjoy, as you can see, I'm taking the worst first. Is Jackpot by Dave Brubeck. This is recorded in Las Vegas and has some tunes that is related to that, with Ace in the Hole, Chicago, Jackpot, Win a Few, Lose a Few, you know the deal. And live record, not that, I mean, it feels like he wasn't so happy being there, and I don't know, it was uninspiring, and the sound quality wasn't that good. But as I said, just like $2 maybe. So I took a chance on these records. Also like $2, a Polish jazz record, Zbigniew Wragen Hoopt, or something like that, with Sake, 1984. And some of these Polish jazz records that you can find pretty cheap, with these flimsy covers, are really good. But this was okay. So it was okay. Like standard jazz. So moving on to the ones that I really thought was good, that I really like. Here you got on Mainstream and Roulette Records, you have Lamont Johnson. It's like this kind of gatefold sleeve there is, and it sounds a little bit like the cover. It's funky jazz, really cool funky jazz, good jazz. And I see these records from time to time, but it's just like that expensive for being an unknown artist or an unknown group for me that I don't pick it up. But in this case, for just like $2, I couldn't resist it, and I bought it. Really good funky jazz. And when maybe 2 years ago, even more, maybe, I was at Anders' house and he gave me this as a gift. I listened to it when I came home and I put it in a collection. Never shown it, but now like this month I've had a huge George Russell kick. Listening a lot online, so I pulled this out and played it just a couple of nights ago. Other thoughts. And this is a 2 LP set of early stuff that he did, the first recordings. And you have a killer lineup on these recordings, like Eric Dolphy, Don Ellis, Dave Baker, Steve Swallow, Johan, Peter La Rocca, Sheila Jordan. And it's killer music, so I'm really on the hunt for George Russell stuff now. The ones I listened to on Spotify was the 70s material. This is the 60s, but the 70s material where he had those kind of Swedish connections. I don't know if they were, I think maybe they were recorded here in Sweden with a lot of Swedish musicians. Really interesting to me and fantastic. Some of it, not all, but some of it's really good. So yeah, on the hunt for George Russell material. This is interesting also. Just a couple of bucks, maybe 2. Miles Ahead by Miles Davis plus 19. Big, huge ass band. And the first Gil Evans collaboration that he did. This is, as you can see, a second press, because the first press, or a later press, because the first press had a boat and a white lady, but Miles didn't like that they put a white lady on his record, so they changed it to this. And I have one other that I got from Anders that they did this with. It's a 6i on Columbia, but they pasted over Columbia by Samson, and they did that with it's just a sticker on the front and also down here. And I can't find any information on the internet why they did and what kind of brand or whatever you call it, label that Samsung was. Can't find any information on that. And this is not on Discog, so I don't know if it's a third press or a fourth press, but it's a 6i and it feels like an early press, so maybe a second, but yeah, I don't know. So if you have information, please let me know. In perfect quality, perfect condition, so really cool to add to the Miles collection. Another one that I listened to a couple of weeks ago online, and then I thought that it was really crap quality on Spotify because the piano and some of the other instruments were way back, so the mix was just fucked up. And I saw it for like $2 in the store, and I grabbed it, and I hoped that the sound quality was better. And this, it's not at all mixed the same on the record. Here the piano and the other instruments comes out just as good as anything else. Art Blakey in Sweden with Wynton Marsalis, and you also have Bobby Watson, Bill Pierce, and James Williams on piano, and Charles Fembro on bass. 1981, recorded on Södra Teatern in Stockholm, but released in 1982. So a pretty old Art Blakey, but he can drum. He knows his drums, his way around the drum kit here too. And great cover also. I love that cover. Yeah, nice addition to the jazz collection. And another one that's a nice addition to that is the Meet the Jazz Tet with or by Art Farmer and Benny Golson. But you also have Chris Fuller, Addison Farmer, Lex Humphreys, and a very young McCoy Tyner. This is 1960, and this is the first UK press, mono press on PYE Jazz. And once again, for just a couple of bucks, with the trade, it was a couple of bucks. Was fantastic, great, like standard jazz record from the 60s, but great. So highly recommended. Along with this that I got from a friend, I also got this, and it's a good fusion record from 1987. I think it's a Japanese guy called Katsumi Watabe, and the record is called The Spice of Life. And the reason it sparked my interest was that Bill Bruford is playing drums on this, and Jeff Berlin plays bass, so a trio record. And if you like that sort of 1987 fusion music with good musicians, but nothing super special, grab it for $1 or $2. Another one that I can't recommend this enough. And if you hunt this down, you can get this for $1 or $2 in Sweden, maybe $10 if you're outside of Sweden. But pick it up. Pantareis Trollhymn. I had no idea about this record, and there's a guitarist called Erik Puppe Lundmark on this that did some like work in the US. I think he's still there. Yeah, awesome fusion, very, very good. And Dragon Records here, or Dragon Records, however you pronounce that, has done an awesome job on releasing this. The sound quality is fantastic. It blew me away because I had no expectations about this. The reason I bought it, because I thought it looked kind of cheesy, is because it's on Dragon Records, and Steve Swallow did the liner notes here, and really praises this record from 1984. So that's the reason I bought it. 11 minutes. I'm sorry, guys. This is going to be a long one. Moving on to staying in the Nordic countries, we have Björn Nerem. How long has this been going on? And I got this for free on a huge batch of records a couple of years ago, and I kept it because it's on Odeon 1971, and they did really interesting stuff on the jazz scene, the Scandinavian jazz scene back in that day, so I thought it would be interesting. It's a good standard jazz record, but nothing mind-blowing. But yeah, stays in the collection at least. Talking about mind-blowing stuff, I can't for my life understand this record at all. And I bought it because it's a well-known record, and you read about it a lot. You see it a lot on like these cult records in Sweden. And it's Åke Hodell's Spirit of Ecstasy, The Way to Nepal. And you can't argue with the cover artwork there. It's such an awesome cover. And it's on Caprice Records. They are famous for making good sounding records. It's with this is the original press with the inner sheet there, and there's Åke there. Now Åke was a sound engineer, sound experimental art guy doing spoken word stuff. This is from 1980, and what you get here is the first track takes the entire first side, called Spirit of Ecstasy. It's just him and some other guys saying car models like Rolls-Royce, Volvo, Ferrari, and no music to speak of in the background, a little bit sampled here and there, and you get motor sounds, but it's just like brutal. And the second side, The Way to Nepal, is even worse. You have jungle noises and monkeys screaming along with motorcycle sounds. It's just... And Caprice reissued this in 2012. I got the original. It's hard to get. It's a rare record, and yeah, I'm gonna get rid of that as soon as I can. This blew me away. This is one of the best Swedish prog records I've heard in a long time. Kaipas Inget Nytt Under Solen on Decca, 1976. And this is the first record. Is not my cup of tea. They did in like, I think it was released in 74 or 73, and they did what everyone else was doing back in England back there on the Swedish on the prog, symphonic prog scene. But with this record, they do their own thing. It feels like that anyway. They sing in Swedish, and it's heavy. Very good musicians. And yeah, highly recommended. Get this, and it's not expensive. You can get that for $20, and I'm sure that it will skyrocket in price in a couple of years because it's good. It seems like no one knows about it, and it's and I shouldn't say that I've never seen it in a local or in a physical store, but you don't see them that often. So grab one if you're collecting Swedish prog before it's too late. Another Swedish prog is Samla Mammas Manna, Schlagens Mystik. They changed their name from Samla Mammas Manna to Samla Mammas Manna. And what you get here is a 2-for-1 with För äldre nybegynnare. And this is a studio record. Classic Samla Mammas Manna. A little bit more modern, 1977, but with that original sound that they have. Very good. But what this is it's a jam record. Takes up 2 sides. And jam in, it's like improvised prog jam, but it sounds like a school class are changing instruments between each other and just banging away on it. It's not that, I mean, it's interesting, but it's not good. But interesting. Moving on to international territory. Grabbed myself a copy of Elephant's Memory, Psych record from 1969, their second release, I think. And Elephant's Memory, they collaborated with Elton John Lennon and Yoko Ono on Some Time in New York, the double LP, and also on a Yoko Ono solo release. But then they vanished. They split up. This is on Buddha Records also. Cool cover, good music if you like Psych. Staying on the Psych side, but on the poppier side, you have White Plains. This is a Deram record, and I got this because it's a Deram record. I had no idea about it. The cover looked interesting and it was cheap. But it's a rip-off of all Beatles and Beach Boys songs ever made, and some of the tracks are pretty good and some are just dull. So a mediocre pop psych record from 1970 on Deram. I had so much expectations because Deram is a cool label. I thought that it would be really out there, but it wasn't. New press. Closer by Joy Division. Finally have a copy of this. Don't need to talk about that. Classic. And I'm collecting the Rare Earth label and then also Rare Earth material. So Rare Earth on Rare Earth on Rare Earth on Rare Earth, and Willie Remembers from 1972. This was not good, but it's going into the collection because of the Rare Earth connection. But I don't know what I'm doing with that kind of collecting. It's just phony and yeah. Lee Hazelwood 40. Swedish press, and yeah, Lee Hazelwood is kind of cool, but there's a lot of people collecting Hazelwood. So when I find Hazelwood for $1 here in Sweden, and you can find that pretty often, like Cowboy in Sweden and sometimes Requiem from an Almost Lady, but I only found that twice and once in my collection. I grab them and try to sell them because I'm not a huge fan of Cowboy in Sweden. When I find it the next time for cheap in good quality, I'm gonna keep it. But Requiem for an Almost Lady is a masterpiece. But the other Hazelwood is so. 2 more to go. Really, really good ones. More by Pink Floyd, and this is the second UK press because you have a boxed EMI here. Without that, it's a first. And there's a song called the Nile Song on here that just blew my mind. I think I've heard it before, but not with the entire record as a kit or a package, you know. And it's such an amazing song. It's hard as prog, like really 1969. It's hard. It reminds me of King Crimson, but much more darker and heavier. So the Nile Song, check it out immediately if you don't know it, with Pink Floyd. And I mean, More is growing. It's a soundtrack, but More is growing to be one of my favorite Pink Floyd records. So good, very like soundtracky, but perfect to have like a mood set piece of music when you're just walking around in the apartment or house. And the last one, and this is a full blown out masterpiece, fantastic, and I'm not gonna be surprised that this is gonna be on my like top 20 records ever recorded. Just give me a little bit more with this, and I think it's gonna go up there. White Noise, Electric Storm, 1969 on Island Records, and it's even hard to it's a later press, maybe third press or something like that, UK, and it's even hard to label this. I don't want to label it Kraut. I don't want to label it prog. It's not psych. It's not totally experimental and avant-garde, but it's a little bit of all. It's beautiful at times, but most of the times it's just very frightening and haunting. You're sitting there almost like you're watching a thriller or something like that. Yeah, really, really cool record. When I heard this, my mind was blown. So, Electric Storm, White Noise. That's it. 21 minutes, shit. 25 records, I think it was. So, talk to you soon. Leave comments if you like. And until next time, bye.